Cool. Hey, everyone. Thank you for the conference organizers for inviting me and for putting the conference together, and thank all of you for being there. So why the title, DevOps, Diving or Death, Choose To? So my goal for the talk is to hopefully inspire you to look at your own interests and hobbies and see if there's ways that you can apply them to some of the technology problems you're facing. So before we dive in with that, I'm going to explain a bit about diving and cave diving in particular. As you'd probably guess, cave diving is scuba diving in water-filled caves. Now, humans aren't normally designed to breathe there, so we need special equipment and skills to do that. Now, in normal scuba diving, when you have a problem, you can go straight to the surface. In cave diving, on the other hand, you might be a long way back into a cave, which prevents you from going into the surface. So what we need to do is solve any problems that we have underwater. Now, if you have problems with your life support equipment that's keeping you breathing and being stuck underwater, usually that's not going to end well. But I promise we aren't all that crazy, and we wouldn't do this if we didn't have ways to mitigate those risks. So how do we do that? Well, I'm going to go back to the title now, and it's something called the Constraint Triangle, or the Blansinki triangles brought up earlier. And it's basically saying that you may have heard you can have something fast, cheap, or working, choose to. That you can have a couple things, but you have to give a trade-off there. But what happens if you need all of the things, like in diving safe, everything to keep us safe? So to accomplish that, what I say is you need to add some kind of creative solution, some new technology or process to get us past where we were before. In technology, I think that's adding DevOps, and that helps us get past some of the constraints we've had in the past. What do I mean by that? I like the CAMS values of DevOps: culture, automation, measurement, sharing. I think by adding some of those things, we're able to get past some of the constraints that have kind of bound us in the past. I think we talk about automation and measurement quite a bit, all the fancy new tools. We've had some good talks on those today. Sharing, we're all here at a conference sharing with each other. Hopefully you're bringing that back to your workplace. So we don't need to cover those, but I think culture is really easy to overlook. I think because it's what surrounds us, we don't even notice it. And because of that, I like to look at something else and the culture of that and see how we can bring that back. And that's where I like to look at diving. Whoops. Not looking at these, I'm getting ahead of myself. So there's a lot of cases where in cave diving that things will go wrong. Equipment breaks, people are making mistakes, and you're basically in an environment that humans aren't meant to live, and it's trying to kill you. So that means the most important skill we have is before we ever get into the water, and that's planning. And I think that's very similar in technology as well, that we need to plan and spend a lot of time on planning, figure out what could go wrong and what we're going to do when it does go wrong. And that means that sometimes we're going to have to slow down. We can't be anxious to push things out, but we need to spend a lot of time in the planning. It also means, though, we have to balance that. We can't just spend all our time planning, have paralysis by analysis, that sometimes we actually just have to push things forward. But that means we're going to miss things, things are going to go wrong, and what are we going to do with them when that happens? So for that, I like to say this is where we can look at the automation and the measurement and the testing and the monitoring. All those tools can help us find and fix problems quickly and early on, but more importantly, they help us learn from the problems and prevent them from happening in the future. Another really cool cultural aspect that we have in diving is communications and trust. We can't talk underwater, so we use hand and light signals to communicate. Now, in normal scuba diving, thumbs up means to go to the surface, normally pretty relaxed. In cave diving, it means get out of here right now, and your whole team just needs to trust that for whatever reason, it's time to leave. And I think that's something we can bring back into technology as well. Sometimes we need to slow down. If you're not comfy with something, to say, hey, we need to slow down, we need to fix this problem, make sure we don't break things in production. And so actually slowing down, that may help us save some time and save money in the long run so that we can actually have kind of all of those aspects of the constraint triangle. So what now? So this is where I say, look at your own interests and hobbies. Think about the constraint triangle. Next time you're stuck on some technology problem, is there something you can add, or is there something similar you've dealt with in a different situation that you can bring in? I think often there are different areas in technology where we have similar problems that we deal with elsewhere that we can imitate or adapt those solutions, and that'll help us get past things that we have in technology. Finally, I think we need to remember to have fun. I think in technology, we often forget, we're so caught up in it, we forget why we work in this. We like to solve problems. We like to face difficult situations. So if that ever gets a little bit frustrating, look at something you enjoy, your hobbies and interests, and see if there's ways you can tie that back. So with that, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Good luck and have fun DevOpsing.